What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What's good? What's up? To want the inner part of his ass crack. Blue about me not being his dad. After reading the book, she was like, "What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What's good, people? What's up? What's up? What's up? What is up? What is up, people? What's up? It is me, L Teddy 27, and I am back for yet another review. This, ladies and gentlemen, will be our review for Interview with the Vampire. This is season 1. It is episode 6. It is entitled Like Angels Put in Hell by God. I was wondering to see how we were going to come back after episode 5, which was so epic. And I thought this was a beautifully written episode. Loved it, loved it, I love the character arc of Claudia so much more now than I did with the movie. Don't get it twisted. I loved Claudia in the movie, but I like her being older. I like the maturity here. I like all parts of this Claudia as well. And so I can appreciate it separately from the movie. So we start off, listen, Louis just got his ass whooped. He just got molly walked. He got dish ragged, whatever adjective you want to put in there. He got dog walked. He got whatever you want to say. He got beat down. And he's battered and bruised and recuperating and recovering. Of course, he's already dead, so there's not like you can kill him. But it takes, months and months for their body to get back to normal and heal in a situation like that. So he's healing, and he talks about how he has these moments and instances where he relives the fall, where he'll just be asleep, and then it's like his body will fall again, and he'll be wreaked in pain. His body will be wreaked and ravaged with pain again, just like it was when he fell the first time. And so then we cut back to present day, and Daniel is receiving his treatment for Parkinson's, and the doctor is there. The doctor was the funniest part of the episode to me, because every time the doctor, I'm not here, I'm not here. You're not talking to me. I'm not here, bitch. Bitch, who are you talking to? I told you I ain't here. I love the doctor. The doctor gave life abundant. Loved him. Um, but Daniel is skeptical about Lestat and his ability to fly. Not that he doesn't believe him, but Daniel's just like, because Louis calls it the cloud gift, and Daniel is just like, so you mean to tell me you lived in the house with this mug 20 years and you never knew he could fly? Now technically, because Louis was like, well, he said it wasn't quite flying, it was floating. Technically, you already knew that, because when y'all first had sex and he was holding you and he was behind you and he was shoving his white milk meat stick up your booty shoot. The booty shoot. Shoving it up your booty shoot. Booty shoot. Up the booty shoot. I know y'all get real mad if I don't find some convenient way to introduce a booty shoot into the review. So we got our booty shoot out the way. Y'all happy now? Y'all happy? We talked about it going up the booty shoot. Y'all be in the comment section mad at me. That's okay. I got you. I got y'all. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Here. Anyway, but when y'all had sex that first time, when Lily was there, if you remember, they was floating off the ground then. So I don't know. I don't think he knew he could go that high, but you were aware that he could float because he did it that time. Anyway, but the whole point is Daniel says that, Louis seems to be suffering from, like it's like Stockholm syndrome, where you're romanticizing Lestat and making it like, oh, he's this wonderful thing, when really he was an awful Lestat is an awful individual. Like there are so many horrible things about Lestat. He is just a quintessential villain. He has things that are likable, but inherently, to the core, he's a horrible individual. I love it. Great writing. So we go back in the day, and Claudia is taking care of Louis. She is a devoted daughter, almost helping Louis with his recovery. That moment we had last episode when she saw how Louis was abandoned by his sister, and that was that seminal moment that she knew, I have to be here for him. And so she was devoted to Louis' recovery. all parts of it. I know she felt some kind of guilt because she felt responsible for Louis getting his ass whooped like that. And some people had commented and said that they felt that Louis could not beat Lestat unless Lestat allowed him to. I don't think that's totally true. I really feel like Louis allowed it to happen so as to keep the focus on him and not on Claudia, not knowing that Lestat had, just like Lestat told Claudia, it ain't about you, it never was. It was never going to be about Claudia anyway. It was always about Louis for Lestat. So anyway, so she's helping him recover. And there's a lot more maturity here. Like I said, the character arc of Claudia, she has matured and grown tremendously since when we first met her. Like she is actually behaving, and even though she's still in a young, a little 14-year-old girl's body, her mannerisms, the way she behaves and acts, is much more grown than it was, or much more young adult, I'll say, than it was when we first met her. Um, she is there with Louis, and Louis is told her, hey, if you want, you could talk to me about what happened to you, like back when she had left and she got assaulted, sexually assaulted by Bruce, and he was like, you could tell me, and she won't tell him. She will not tell uh, Louis at all. So they're, doing the things, helping Louis recover. Lestat is calling incessantly. He calls on the phone, they don't answer. So at one point, Lestat comes to the house, knocks on the door. Claudia go to the door. Can we help you? He brings this elaborate book that he had gotten from the 15th century, some old elaborate book that he said that Louis would like. Baby, she looked at that book. Nobody here wants to hear from you. Well, I know he said you should let me hear it from him. Baby, when Louis took his coffin, and threw it out the second floor balcony window and let that thing break up on the floor, is that the answer you're looking for? Baby, he don't want to see you. Thank you for coming. Please drive safely. So I was here for that part. That part gave me life. So we see one night Louis and Claudia are, walking the city, talking and, doing what they do at night when they get out. And Lestat pulls up in this brand new Rolls Royce that he done bought for Louis, and he tells him, "I got another one in blue at the house, or red, or whatever color. But this one is yours." He give him the key. Baby Claudia looking at him like, "Bitch, we're not here for you." And he's looking for Louis. He says, he's trying to woo Louis. He's trying to break down Louis's walls. He's trying to get Louis to take him back, and Louis will not speak to him. Louis is silent. He is, and that crushes Lestat. Lestat likes to have the power. He likes to wield that power. This is the superiority complex. This is that white supremacy. And I know we're talking about the fact that this is a vampire and they're making, and there's that aspect, but you cannot escape the metaphoric and allegoric meaning behind even that part. I told you that's the part that people don't want to address and talk about, because it's a lot nicer and more flowery story if we leave the racial component out. But there was absolutely a racial component. You have this white man that has all of this money, and it's like these are freed slaves, and he's trying to show them your life ain't never gonna be as good as it could be with me. You need me. I can get you this. Because remember, a lot of things that Louis got, he got because of Lestat. He couldn't get it on his own. The club and a lot of the other things that those white guys sold to Louis was only because of Lestat. It wasn't because of Louis. So he still feels like they need him, and he's going to remind them. That's why he keeps bringing these trinkets. That's why his disrespectful ass will not accept no for an answer. It's the superiority complex. It's white supremacy and white privilege at its best. White people refuse for you to tell them no. You can't tell them no. If you tell them you can't have it, they're going to find a way to get what they want because they feel like they're owed that. I'm trying to tell you, you can't escape that. So anyway, it done been 3 years, and Louis keeps telling them no. Lestat apologizes. Louis is silent. Like I said, baby Claudia threw the keys across the street and took her fingernails and scratched the hood of that car. Like, bitch, what? And Lestat, I made note when he said, "Your silence is cruel, Louis, and you've never been cruel." And Louis stayed silent, and they kept it moving. And then in present day, Louis tells Daniel that this went on for about 6 years. He kept calling. He kept coming through, bringing gifts and gifts. This is the refusing to say no. And I know people are gonna tell me, "Well, that's what love is about." This went beyond love. This was all about the control. And this was all about ownership. That's what this was about. This was about ownership. A slave and their master. Slaves and their master. So you can't escape the racial component here. So back in the when we go back in time, we see Lestat finally sends a gift that gets through to Louis. He sends him this record, and we all know from previous episodes, Lestat loves music. Music is his Achilles heel. Music is that one thing that helps him maintain his humanity. So he recorded this song for Louis, and Louis tells the story about, oh, that was his first composition in 100 years, trying to make it all sound all flowery and stuff. And Daniel ain't buying it. Daniel like, mm-hmm. And yeah, he played all of the instruments by himself, and all of it. And Daniel was sitting there like, okay, all right, you got Stockholm syndrome. And so when we see and how he had only did one recording, and so Louis tells Rashid to play the song, and so Louis tells Daniel, this is not the original. This is a re-recording because he only made one album. He only made one record. He deleted all of the original masters. At least that's what he told Louis. That's what Lestat told Louis. But he said he deleted all of the masters, and there was only one original recording. And when Louis back in so we go back in time, we see Louis opening it up and listening to it, and then Louis listens, and you hear Lestat singing, and then you hear a female voice, and you knew that's Antoinette, the same Antoinette, the same one that last episode Claudia said, yeah, you love two people. It's that you ain't fooling nobody. You love Louis and that whore Antoinette. Child, Louis heard that woman's voice and said, I know the fuck you lying, baby. When I tell you, he literally left the house, swam, because Lestat was staying over in Algiers with Antoinette, which was across the Mississippi River. Baby Louis had to swim across the Mississippi River to get over there and go in. Baby Louis took that record and broke it, rolled up in the house. Lestat is in bed with Antoinette. They butt ass nigga. I don't know if they was getting ready to fuck or they had just fucked. But Baby Louis breaks that record and says, "Is this what you think? Some little song gonna get it, and then you gonna put your little whore on the song and think I'm supposed to be okay with it? Bitch, fuck you." He told Antoinette, "Baby, you might want to put on some clothes and get your ass out this goddamn house." She was like, "This my house." Baby, I said you might want to leave. This that was like, yeah, you might want to go. And she leaves. It was the jealousy. I really think had it just been a song with Lestat singing, that Louis wouldn't have went. He wouldn't have gone. But the fact that he put that whore on that song, Louis was like, I know the fuck you. Louis had to go. And then when Louis went there, he knew Louis was still, he wasn't as deeply in love with Lestat as he was, but there was still that little bit of connection there because he was disillusioned enough to still think that Lestat loved him more than Lestat loved Antoinette. I really don't. I really feel like Lestat looked at both of them like they were his toys, like they were his property, like they belonged to him, and he had this superiority complex, this supremacy over both Antoinette and Louis, and was making and using both of them like pawns and making both of them feel like he loved them the most. Just a mess. Anyway, so Louis take Lestat back and they fuck and a fight. If you notice, they didn't just kiss. Louis was giving Lestat, two to the head, three to the body. In that, so he would kiss him. Then he, gave him two to the head, three to the body. So they were fighting and fucking all at the same time. Got to go back and rewind and watch. That's what they did. Antoinette is on the balcony, jealous, just like Louis was jealous, because she was like, I know he can put me out for not only a man, but this black man, and I'm a white woman. Catch it. Catch it. Anyway, so we get back to the house. They don't let Lestat come back to the house. Claudia's sitting there like this. So they have come up with rules that Lestat has to abide by in order for him to come back in the house and have a chance to get back with Louis. So one of the rules is um, he has to kill Antoinette. He has to kill Antoinette. That's not even an option. Claudia says, you have to see me as your sister. You're no longer my uncle or my daddy. I am your sister. I am older now. I'm not the little girl no more. And so also, he can't tell any lies. and he can't keep any secrets. But even in this instant, Lestat is sitting there just very unbothered, like, really, this what we do? Okay, girl, whatever you need me to do. And in most cases, like, because Claudia was seeing through all this shit. Claudia was like, I'm not here for this shit. I'm only doing this shit really for Louis. And Louis is allowing Lestat, even in this moment where Lestat should be remorseful. He should be the one who's apologetic. Baby, Lestat sitting there like, this is what we doing. We really, you want me to do this with this little girl? Like this, I don't have time. He really would say, I don't have it to do with y'all, but I'll play y'all a game. I'll say whatever I need to say to get back. Because he has, the white privilege, the white supremacy. He feels like, because once I get back in, I have ownership again, and I'm gonna call the shots. So they said they start asking him questions to make him prove that he's not going to keep anything from them, or tell them a lie. So Louis asks, "Did you have anything to do with Paul's death?" And of course, Lestat says no, because who knows? Maybe he did, or maybe he did not. But he's going to absolutely tell Louis whatever he needs to tell Louis in order for Louis to take him back. So of course he's going to say absolutely not. I would never do that. Claudia asks him, "Who made you?" And so then Lestat goes into this story about this man named Magnus that made him and had him sleeping in this, locked in this room with corpses and bodies that in various stages of decay, and he would feed on him every day for a week, and all of this about one day he made him, and after that either Magnus went away or died some kind of way. Magnus left, and Louis talks about being abandoned. Not Louis, Lestat talks about being abandoned and having to fend for himself and learn how to be a vampire. And he tries to tell this story to really pull on the heartstrings. I believe it actually is what happened to Lestat. I really believe that's what happened to Lestat. Louis fell for a hook, line, and sinker. Baby Claudia looking at him like, girl, I don't care. Okay, you had all that happen, and what else? So you got two whole different vantage points of this, because Lestat was saying how his life was horrible and that's why he don't like to be abandoned. That he had to fend for himself all of these years and didn't have nobody to teach him nothing. He had to teach himself everything. I don't know how much of that I believe. But that was the story that he told them. This elaborate story. Baby, when he got through, Claudia was like, "Bitch, don't forget you need to kill that whore Antoinette." I'm like, "That's it, Claudia. Let that bitch know." So they then talk about how the people in the city, once they let Lestat back in, and they kind of went back to, I'm not gonna say life is normal. They went back to the new normal, which was Louis playing mediator between Lestat and Claudia, because both of them were vying for Louis's heart. Lestat was jealous of Antoinette, not Antoinette, God, of Claudia, because he knew Louis loved Claudia unconditionally. Claudia was jealous of Lestat because she knew Louis was in love with Lestat, and Lestat was dangerous for Louis, and Lestat would be Louis's downfall and or death. And she loved Louis enough, and she didn't want Louis in the way that Lestat wanted Louis, but she wanted Louis so he could go and be free with her, and he wouldn't be bound to that. And that goes back to that bond. You have these two black people. There's always that bond that black people have, that white people want to have with us, and are very jealous of. Anyway, so they talk about how the people in the city had started to do these things outside of their door, like put these little voodoo markings or ritualistic spiritual markings outside their door to try to get them to go away, scare them away, get them to get out of town and leave the city. But they were undeterred, and so forth. So, like I said, you have this arrangement where you have these two opposing sides. Lestat ain't trying and don't see it for Claudia. Claudia don't see it for Lestat, and Louis is pit in the middle, trying to be the mediator. He goes to Claudia and say, "Listen, you got to give him a chance." Claudia said, "Baby, I'm just over here enduring for you. I don't have it to do with him." Baby, Louis will go over there to Lestat and say, "You got to understand. She's a teenager. She's stubborn." Lestat like, she's a petulant child. I don't want no part of her. So neither one of them are willing to bend or yield, and that's not gonna make for a good dynamic here. That's not a good family dynamic here. So Louis is fighting a battle that he's not gonna win. There's no mediating these two. There's no meeting of the minds of these two. They're both tolerating each other just for Louis. So um, at one conversation, Lestat and Claudia did have something in common. And that was the first breaking of the ice. And that was the fact that both of them felt like Louis had this self righteous, pious aura about him with regard to how they would feed on human. humans and he would feed on animals. And they said it made them feel like they were beneath him. And so Louis agrees, I'll feed on people again if that can keep the peace and get y'all back to the point where y'all can kind of get y'all life in order and come back together. So he agrees to start feeding on people and humans again, just to kind of help mediate this whole relationship. So we see Louis tries to keeps trying to get Claudia to forgive Lestat, and he keeps trying to get Lestat to understand Claudia. It just ain't happening. That horse is dead. We keep beating it. So one day, Lestat brings Antoinette's finger, and there's an article in the newspaper about Antoinette dying, and then he has Antoinette's finger to prove to them that she's dead. So there was an article in the newspaper about Antoinette dying. He brings them Antoinette's finger with her ring on it to prove that she's dead, and so that's supposed to make everything better. And so we see that Lestat starts to teach Claudia to play the piano as well as to play chess. Lestat has this superiority complex. This I ain't gonna say white supremacy, but he felt she's never gonna be as good as me. So he teaches her how to play chess, not knowing this ain't the same little girl who left. When she came back, she was a lot smarter and a lot more observant, um, a lot more teachable. So they play hundreds of games of chess. He wins every time. But Claudia is learning. I think to a certain degree. Of course, the first probably several hundred times she was losing, but I think Claudia got to a point where she knew what to do to win, but she kept doing it because she wanted to see how he played. She wanted to learn him. She was getting a lot of valuable information, seeing exactly what he does. Sometimes you gotta, well, that's what Fantasia says. Sometimes you gotta lose to win the game. Sometimes you do have to lose a few times in order to finally win. And it wasn't the game of chess she was trying to win. So one time they're playing chess, and Claudia has this whole conversation with Louis, all about how Massa want us to do this, Massa want us to do this, Massa say move, we do this. And I was like, wow. And they were doing this mentally. You know how Claudia and Louis can talk telepathically. And it was like, there it is. Now it's in this. Now you see that. Now you see the racial dynamic. Claudia went right to it, to its core. Massa want us to do this. Massa want us to do that. Oh, we got to take. She even said, we are his slaves. We're his slaves. Baby, it got real deep right there. Real deep to me right there. That whole conversation, I rewound like 4 or 5 times. Because that conversation was real deep. And not only was Claudia learning Lestat, Claudia was learning Louis. And she watched how Louis interacted. And she knew what Louis needed to hear in order to get Louis to come on her side. So she had her own bit of manipulation, just like Lestat did. So Louis goes over to Lestat's house one day. Baby, she ain't dead. He had her cut off her finger and he had her fake her death. That's why they had it in the newspaper. But she ain't dead. Excuse me. And so she she and Louis are in bed talking about the whole plan that Louis had. I mean, she and Lestat are in bed. Mm. Talking about the whole plan that Lestat made and how he made promises to her to make her a star and so forth. Now she had these big bite marks in her neck. So at first, when she was alive and they had faked her death, I thought they were trying to indicate that she was turned into a vampire. But then when I saw the bite marks in her neck, I said, nah, she can't be a vampire because he wouldn't still be feeding on her like that. So she must still be human, but they just faked her death so that it could appease Louis and Claudia. But not knowing that Claudia and Louis had followed Lestat, and they heard the whole conversation. They saw that Antoinette wasn't dead. They saw that Lestat had been lying to them, and so they leave because they was hiding on a fire escape. And Louis tells Antoinette, I mean Lestat tells Antoinette that he loves her, and she says I love you, and they whispering sweet nothings in each other's ear. Child girl. Lestat and Louis, I mean, not Lestat, Louis and Claudia leave. And Claudia was like, see, I told you that bitch been lying. And Louis says he still is holding on. Holding on. He said, listen, he wanted us to catch him. He'll never love her as much as he loves me, and that's the game. That right there is that game. That's the game that they play. Always making you feel like, oh, he'll never love her as much as he loves me. Baby, he was willing to keep that woman alive and come and concoct a whole fake death to keep her alive. And you thought she was dead. Um, anyway, Louis tells Claudia he's not going to tell the stat that he knows about Antoinette. And Claudia is at that point. I know she looked at she like, I know you got to be fucking like. I know she was like, bitch, that dick better be good as fuck, baby. That better be life changing dick. Clearly, it is life changing dick because it made you give up your whole life. I guess. Anyway, so Claudia and Louis are in the park. The stat leaves. It's Claudia and Louis, and Claudia said, "Listen, there's a train coming in an hour. We can leave here and go." And Louis was like, "Listen, I know what I'm in. I know that my situation I'm in. I don't even have it to do. I'm just gonna stay here and endure it, and that's just my lot in life. But you're still young. You go, live your life, have a good time. Go ahead." And they start talking about it. And so Claudia says he's going to hurt you again. What he does, you call me and you let me know. And he says, "I know where you'll be. You'll be." And they start calling out all the little cities that she's been teaching him or whatnot. And so he lets her go, and they have this beautiful hug and this beautiful embrace. And it's a sad, touching moment. He lets her go. She goes, and she's off to go be her own woman and find other vampires, honestly. And so she goes, and you see her. She gets on the train, leaves Louis there, and present day. We go back to present day. Louis and Daniel are talking. So Louis says, "When I told you this part of the story back in the 70s, 50 years ago, you at that point wanted me to make you a vampire, and I told you no." And he says, "I would actually do it now. Now I would do it. It would, in your Parkinson's, you get to see your daughters, get married and everything." And Daniel is like, "I'm good. I don't need, no, I'm good. I'm good dying. I know what's coming. I don't want to be a vampire no more." So we see Daniel's changed. So we see this change. Everybody's changed. Daniel's changed. Louis has changed. And I think that's one thing Daniel needed to realize, and Louis wanted Daniel to realize. You say, "I've changed. My story has changed." Yeah, I have changed. 50 years is going by. And just like I've changed, you've changed as well. So we go back, we go cut back in the day. And Louis talks about that day he started to commit suicide because he knew at that point, what am I here for? What am I living for? Like what the hell? I'm stuck in this bullshit of a relationship with this horrible individual, with this entire demon. I don't want to be here. I think he realized, what am I here for? And so he said he contemplated, just staying there till the sun rose and committing suicide. But he said he didn't want to do that to Claudia. His love for Claudia at that point we saw was stronger than his love for Lestat. And he said, just like Paul's death ruined his sister's wedding day, I don't cause suicide, I should say, ruined his sister's wedding day. He said he didn't want his suicide to ruin Claudia's first day of freedom. So he didn't do it and he went home. Um, so when he gets home, the stat is there and they're listening to like when German invaded Poland and the start of World War II, and they listening to all it on the radio. And the stat, said is doing all that. And Louis was like, "You ain't never cared about humanity. Why you care now?" He said, "Should we all care?" He played his little mind game. And you look over, Claudia's sitting there. Mind you, Claudia's supposed to be on the train. Claudia did make it to the train. Baby, she was in that back all happy, reading her books, thinking everything gonna be all right. Next thing you know, she started hearing screams and people, and here come Lestat. He done busted in there, killed everybody. And he went and told her, he said, hey, let me talk to you, boo-boo. I can't let you go. Not with him like this. You see how the fuck he had got fucked up the first time you left? Baby, I'm not going through that again. You gonna stay your ass here because he's in a very vulnerable state. Mm-mm. I ain't gonna let you do that. And he then turns very cruel to her. He talks to her about how she was sexually assaulted by Bruce, and he was like, "Yeah, I hate for that to happen to you again." He's taunting her at this point because he knows and she knows he's much stronger than her, and he can kill her at any point. And he's taunting her. It's the supremacy. And he tells her, listen, if you try to leave here again without telling me, I'm going to kill you myself. I said, oh, he said, I'm going to turn your bones into dust. I said, child. And so that's how he had her back at the house. Claudia upset. Louis knows that Claudia is upset. And Louis knows what's going on here. He just doesn't want to say it. Baby. So they back to this routine where everybody just tolerating each other. I'm just here so I don't get fined. I don't like you. You don't like me. Baby, we just here. Just listen. Listen. So they playing this game. They playing this game of chess again. Um, fucking um Lestat is being his normal self, just condescending, just an asshole the whole time. And Claudia's playing the game. She's talking to Louis telepathically, and she's telling Louis, "Listen, I already know what we got to do." She says, "Listen, I'm gonna free us both. How I'm gonna do that? I'm gonna have to kill Lestat." And Louis like, "You can't kill Lestat." She said, "Yes, I can. You got to know how he thinks. You got to be thinking 5 steps ahead of him," which is what she was doing in the chess game. And so she says, I got another secret. And she was like, the secret is you want to kill him too. And he admitted to himself, I do want to kill this bitch. And like she said, she had the thought 5 steps ahead. She had won the game. She had him at checkmate, but she refused to make the final move that would win the game. And Lestat knew he had lost. And he would much rather go ahead and lose the game instead of having the game left unfinished. And she knew, she had studied him so long, she knew if I don't finish the game, that will make him even more upset than having him win. I mean, having him lose. So she left it unfinished and went upstairs. And he loses it. He starts screaming and yelling and throwing shit. He loses it. She had got him. She had got him. Not only has she got him in the game, she got Louis to go along with her to kill him. And that by doing that, she proven to Louis it can be done. Baby. So after that, um, we go back to present day, right? Present day. Daniel done fell asleep. The medication and all of that stuff. He done fell asleep. So Louis calls Rashid and say, "Hey, come bring a cover for Daniel. We'll continue tomorrow." Daniel is having a dream of when he first met Louis, and it's back in 1973, I think it was, and it's San Francisco, and Louis is there. He got an afro and everything, and got on the '70s clothes, and they meet for the first time. They're going all the way back through how Daniel tells Louis he's a journalist, and how they set up everything for the interview, how they do all the small talk and everything, and set up the interview. So we see how it all started. So Daniel gets Louis gets Daniel to agree to go to his apartment, and who walks around the corner? Rashid, looking exactly like he does in present day, but it's 50 years earlier. And Rashid hugs Louis and tell him, "I'll let you go have your fun," as if they love us. And Daniel wakes up as if he's had a nightmare, and it goes off from there. I was like, ooh, I can't wait. We know the next episode is the season finale. So excited about the season finale. It's going to be so great. We'll be back here. Listen, I know this was a long one. I know that was a lot. Y'all, let's get in the comment section. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Let's good about what we saw. And we'll be back for the season finale. That's all I got for y'all. Until next time, thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely. I'm out.